There's been such a quick uptake with your services. If people in China sort of cracked this nut for a long time and have had various levels of success, but nothing this dramatic.
Because we cracked the nut,
yeah, okay.
And it's a serious nut.
Okay.
Meaning, it's a. I mean, it was one of the original things that people wanted to do with the internet. That's how does it transform local? And there wasn't even a good form of customer acquisition offline before the internet for local businesses.
Newspapers, local circulars.
For a mom and pop shop, the problem is if you want to advertise in a newspaper or a circular or radio, you have to spend a whole bunch of money up front, and you get exposure, which you cross your fingers will translate into leads, which will translate into customers in the door. And if you're a small business, you don't have the kind of budget to screw around and mess that up. You kind of get one shot, and so many small businesses have tried one ad. It's a terrible experience, and they never do it again. So with Groupon, it's the first time ever that local, I don't know why I'm doing this, but it's the first time in history that local businesses have been able to pay for what really matters, which is customers in the door.
Why is that? I mean, it's not, I don't say it's not a genius concept, but why hasn't that happened? Why it happened?
I don't know, but I'll tell you, it wasn't, for what it's worth, it wasn't intuitive to us that it was going, again, we started this as the point, and when we started selling these daily deals, we looked at it more from the consumer perspective. Like, it would be really cool to be able to get these discounts, or to get exposed to new businesses every day. But I don't think we fully realized how vital something like this could be to small businesses in the city. So I do think, people ask us, I do think it could have existed 10 years ago. I don't think it would have grown as quickly. But I don't see anything about the concept that it couldn't have been successful.
Let's talk about the quick growth and the attention that you've gotten, both of you. I mean, I can't pick up a magazine cover without seeing one of your faces on it, which is very enjoyable, I suppose. What you've gotten a huge amount of attention rather quickly. First Dennis and now Andrew. What is that like, the idea of a startup? You know, before it took a startup for a long time, there was some adoption, there's some attention, things like that. Right now, what's happened with startups has changed, especially certain startups, not every one of them, but has happened rather quickly. How do you deal with that? We'll get to the money part later, but how do you deal with that? What's happened? How do you manage that? I mean, it's good for your brand because you want to get it known.
Manages the company or the president?
How do you, I mean, here you are, Foursquare suddenly blew up and rather quick, from a very small base to a very quick base.
The toughest thing is keeping up with, you know, what's actually going on with the company, with people's expectations. Like, we are 50 people, and that, to me, that seems like a huge company because Dodgeball is 2 of us. But people here, you know, a lot of people are like, what are you guys, 200, 250 people? It's like, God, I wish we were that big. And so, you know, the amount of stuff that we can do with 50 people I think is great, but like we talk to brands and advertisers and merchants, and you know, there's still a lot of friction in Foursquare to help those businesses, you know, use the platform successfully. So that's the thing that's kind of tough, you know, just managing expectations. With the team, it's kind of tough because there's so much exposure on us. Like in New York, like we're like the company in New York, which is great, but then, you know, it's a little tricky to make sure, you know, the team knows that we still, there's a huge fight in front of us, there's lots of competition, and we have to keep our head down and keep focused to get the things built that we want to build.
What's a misconception about your company at this, as it's gone? You know,
the size of the company is always the first one. The second one is like, oh, Foursquare, yeah, that's hipsters in New York and San Francisco, you know, checking in at bars. And you know, when you run the numbers,
it is a little bit hipsters in San Francisco and they're checking in at bars, but go ahead.
That's how it started. I mean, Dodgeball had the same bad rap, but then we started using, you know, we started seeing parents and occasional college campuses use it. And if you look at Foursquare, it's like 40% of the usage is international, like outside the US. You know, it's happening around the world. It's like not just on the coast, it's all over the US, it's all over Europe. We're seeing huge growth in Southeast Asia and Japan, and pockets of South America. So I mean, that was a big surprise for us too.
And what about, you're just come out of it, almost, you know, the attention and you know, the money and everything has to do with it, but the growth has been really quick. What's been the biggest challenges for you in that?
Well, the growth has been quick, but it was incremental. It's not like we went from 1 to 10 overnight. So our first city, Chicago, we launched in November 2008, and then we waited a good 5 months before we went into our second city, 2 months before our third city. So we really took our time developing the original playbook and getting things right before we turned it up all the way. And that's how our international expansion has gone as well. Mark mentioned that we've added 39 countries in the last 13 months or so. And the way we did that was by first creating, I think, a strong cultural foundation for the company, and then hiring great people, great entrepreneurs who are capable of executing in each one of these countries and just being wind against their backs, providing the playbook that they need to execute.
Company culture also, both of you are very strong company cultures, and it's been a big, Google originally had one of the first sort of significant company cultures. How do you look at that as an important part as you grow? Because, you're getting a lot of incoming, a lot of attention, a lot of ways that can warp that original vision. How do each of you deal with it, with the idea? What would you say the company culture of Foursquare is?
I think it's a lot of fun, first of all. Like, we're trying to bring in people that, they're not just strong engineers, but, they understand how social works. Like, they might be passionate about games, and really passionate about local. I think one of the really interesting things about where we are at Foursquare is, like, we basically hired a lot of our friends in New York. It's people that we've known from the last 10 years that were, we either had side projects or they were reviewing local restaurants or trying to build recommendations matchups. It's all people who, this is their passion, and it translates very well into the culture. I think it's also really important, going back to what you were saying before about the press coverage, is to keep the company humble. And I think, when we're growing so quickly, it's tough for employees to grasp that. But, I think it's really important just to keep everyone grounded. But, as long as we all know that we're still relatively hot. We're 6 million users, and there's, the folks that are read about ourselves considerably larger. We have a long way to go to get that.
Your culture is really pronounced, actually. Where does it come from? I mean, besides your own whimsical personality.
Well, Groupon, as a business model, is surprise is a big part of it. Every day we have a new deal. You don't know what it's going to be. That's part of the fun, and that's given us permission to extend that same kind of craziness or quirkiness and the other elements of what we do, from our marketing to our copywriting. In department, we have 350 writers who prepare really bizarre content for these businesses. We'll talk about it in an acupuncture place, and then talk about how you can use the needles as your fondue set after you get acupuncture in a way that's.
Go ahead.
So I won't do another guitar clip, but it's so I think there's just parts of the company that keep it fun. To Dennis's point, I think that our bigger problem is, the thing that I worry about more is trying to almost manage people from getting overexcited with the success that we've had. We're only 2 years old, and we still have a long road in front of us before I feel like we can celebrate. So, like, the all hands meetings that we have are usually morbidly, talking about everything that could go wrong. It's like we almost have to beat people with a stick in order to remember it.
Do you actually beat people with sticks?
And not anymore.
So talk about what could go wrong then. What are you worried about at this moment? I mean, we're going to get to the financing and where you're headed, but what is your biggest worry as an entrepreneur with this kind of rocket ship of growth, both of you? First, you know.
I think not becoming complacent and not being satisfied with what we've done so far, continuing to innovate. Something that I've realized after looking at a lot of the companies that have had this kind of rise and kind of equally sudden fall is that so often when they lose, they're losing to themselves more than they lose to competitors. And
it's a classic tale. It's a classic tale of the hero comes and then becomes corrupted and then falls and presumably returns, but we'll see. Where are you in that stage?
think we're still growing. Things are still moving along nicely, and we just have to continue to focus on making our customers super happy, and I think we'll be okay. But I think it's about continuing to innovate, continuing to find new ways to disrupt ourselves instead of letting someone else do it.
Let's talk about that idea of the attention. Both of you have turned down rather significant offers from rather large companies. Dennis's case, Yahoo attempted to buy Foursquare. I believe Facebook also did. Who knows who else? I'm sure there are other attentive people. Obviously, your whole negotiation with Google was rather well documented, and the price was rather large, $6 billion. What happened in terms of deciding to stay independent at this moment in time? First, you did.
I feel like, with some of the dodgeball experience, the thing that's important to us is taking all the ideas we had in our heads for a long time and building products that illustrate those ideas and then pushing them out to as many people as possible. And I feel like we've been saying this for a while, like we're 10 to 20% of where the roadmap is supposed to end, and I feel like it's just too early to get off the ride. There's so many other things we haven't done, and there's so much opportunity with the products we're building and the data set that we're collecting that we just want to keep pushing that. I think the toughest part is having confidence in our team to do that. This stuff was going on last summer, we were still like 10, 15, maybe 20 people, and I think it's a gamble. It's like we're gambling that we can make it happen with the team, hire the right people, and now with 50 or 51 people, like it seems like it's paying off. Like we're starting to see the team working together. The hardest thing we've had to do is grow from 5 people to 50 people. Scale the company, scale the product, scale all the infrastructure, and then get everyone still playing nice together. It feels like we just got to that point.
So how did you get to the decision? I mean, the first time you did sell, you had some regrets about it, which you talked about publicly. How did you get your investors and others to say, all right, I'm just not going to take this large return, and instead we're going to go for it?
The investors have been incredibly supportive. I think they want to see us shoot them. That's great, because that's what we're thinking about as well.
So you didn't feel like it was not the wrong decision, but you didn't feel pressure that you made a mistake?
No, I think someone told me as soon as the stuff was going down, it's like if you turn down some of these deals every day, you'll think about it, which I think is true. But I think about it in the context of like, yeah, I think we did the right thing. We rolled the dice a little bit. We built an amazing team, and we've got plenty of runway to build all the things that we've been talking about.
How much total did you raise after that? What happened is after those talks, they raised a significant amount of funding.
Yeah, sure. So we did the Series A in 2009, and we did the Series B for $20 million last summer.
Andrew, you got a ton of attention for, negative and positive for the idea of getting into these discussions with Yahoo initially and then Google, which you aren't going to talk about in detail, I know, but I wish you would. What happened there from your perspective that you can't talk about? How in the world did you turn out by that much money?
Can you give me a few options on how you'd like me to dodge this question?
I'd like you to answer fully, really would be really helpful for all the entrepreneurs in the audience. I know they'd like to know how someone turns down $6 billion. It's sort of like making love to a porcupine, very carefully. But, what were you thinking? What the hell were you thinking? That was probably the call from his mother. Andrew.
on any of the speculation around any of that stuff. So, but I can say that
it's not speculation. Go ahead.
I can say that we're local commerce, local e-commerce is an exciting space, and we feel like we're onto something, and we're excited to be building our business. Isn't that an awesome thing to say as an alternative?
I just heard, you remember Charlie Brown, where the teacher's going, wah, 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 wah. That's what I just heard.